passe super. L'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De i semifinale igjen!
Welcome to the Unformed Handball Hour, coming at you at a reasonable time today of just before 6 p.m. So we should all be in completely top form. How are you, Chris?
I'm in top form.
And Brian?
I'm alright. I'm not sure I'm ever top form, but I'll do my best. How are you, Alex?
I'm very good. I'm pretty excited now. You know, the tournament is in full swing. We saw some great quarterfinals, big matchups, big impressive performances across the board from the winners and some of the losers. But I think the most impressive performance has to have been that second half performance from France.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as you said when we were talking about it, Alex, it was just their defense for the first 15 minutes of that second half was just like, I was watching, I was like, oh, this is over. And it just looked like they completely shut up shop. And it would just, for those 15 minutes, it was like probably the best 15 minutes of defense I've probably seen in the whole tournament so far. It was just incredible. So when France turn it on defensively, it's an absolute nightmare.
Absolutely. And I don't know what we were smoking in the last episode when we were like, well, France really destroyed Russia, but I don't know if they can do it. Like, what was the logic behind that argument that we are still doubting France? Oh, they just won the Olympic Games and, you know, they're probably the best team, best squad, best defense. They just destroyed Russia, but I don't know. It didn't convince us last time. I think this one really convinced us. It convinced me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the thing after the Olympics also is that teams can tend to go on a bit of a downer, and France as well, after major successes like winning the Euro in 2018. The next World Championship, they ended up winning the President's Cup. So, you know, it's not unlike them to fall from grace a little bit, but that's been the most impressive thing about this team is that they've managed to integrate a few new players really quickly and hit the heights that they have before. And it's, you know, that, as you said, that 15-minute spell, the third quarter of the game against Sweden in defense was just something else. And that is something we hadn't seen from them in the championship so far. So it's moments like that when they actually produce it and they seem to be hitting form at the right time, that it's really, yeah, that puts all the doubts to bed about how good they are. And that really was a great defensive performance. I still have question marks over whether they can do that against a team that can shoot from long range, because Sweden, not that they can't, but they almost didn't want to shoot from long range, and when they did, it worked out great for them in that game. So I think it was a case for them that they also took full advantage of Sweden's weaknesses, so to speak, or shortcomings in the attack, and just focused completely on not allowing Yamina Roberts to do her thing and go in between 1 and 2. Like, that was the great bit of shutdown defense that made the difference for me.
So you're basically saying there now that France are in the final. So come up against a team that can shoot. Denmark can't shoot. They were missing the goal the last. No, I'm kidding. But if you're talking about, we talked about a team struggling in attack, and I think probably Denmark's attack is probably one of their weaker parts of their game. If you think with their strongest parts, defense, goalkeepers, and working with the wings. You'd fancy France also there. We'll probably get to that a little later, but just when you said that there, I thought you're indirectly saying, oh, France are in the final now, because they're not come up against a team that can really shoot from the backcourt.
I'm not suggesting that, because they're coming up against a team that have had the best defense of the whole championship and the best pair of goalkeepers. So what I'm actually saying is it's going to be 14-14 and we go into extra time.
two of the best defenses, isn't it? Yeah. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't quite buy the argument that it wouldn't work against a shooting team either, because what France have is a really aggressive defense. So they step out early, they stop players early. So in this case, it was about stopping Yamina Roberts before she made her move. But where they made that stop was, at the 9-meter line very early. And they had a lot of, it's such a coordinated defense that when a player gets the ball, the wing player runs out and tackles the back player, or the number 2 defender runs out and stops the centre back quite early in the attack. And it's all about, taking people off their rhythm, which I think it would still be effective against a team full of shooters like Norway, for example, maybe in the final. Who knows?
That is a fair point. But I see, when they come up against a team that is also incredibly good in defense and will counterattack, or will have opportunities to counterattack against them, like the Russians did in the final main round game, that then you have players like Lina Haugstad, for example, or Christine Jorgensen, who can just take the ball from defence into attack and shoot very quickly, take on an unsettled defence, and that's where the game is really going to be broken down, I think, on Friday.
In attack, though, France also didn't look amazing in attack. I would say, actually, both across both halves. But one player that made it all happen was Gras Zadie.
Yeah.
She had one of the most incredible performances that I've seen at this championship so far. And it was her ingenuity, her creativity that absolutely destroyed the Sweden defence. They really had no idea how to deal with her, and that was the real big difference between the Swedish attack, that were very one-dimensional. They were looking for that one-on-one opportunity. They were looking to break through, get the ball to Hagman any way possible, or get the ball to the line. But it was all very one-directional. What Zadie did was incredible, and I think there was one spell where it was 3 attacks in a row that really stood out for me, where she got the ball, did her normal standing shot from 9 meters. We know she's great at that, scored it. Next attack, she drove in and in a turn, basically passed the ball into the wing from the center position, leaving a wide open shot for the winger. And then in the next attack, as she was about to do a switch with a back player, she just faked it and ran through. And all of this was just different levels of creativity that Sweden were just not able to expect. It really broke that Swedish defence apart, and she had 10 assists, only 2 goals, but 10 assists, and each assist in this case was 100% earned.
I agree with that, yeah, and I think you can actually see that almost when you look at the score sheets of both games. You see the amount, the really healthy spread of goals from France across the board. You've like No Candy 3 goals, Pineau 3 goals, Zadie 2 goals, Flippa's top scorer 4 goals, Foppa with 3 goals. Whereas then you look at Sweden and it's really kind of top heavy. You have Lindblom with 6, Hagman with 9, and then the rest is 1s and 2s. So it's kind of like really top heavy with Hagman and Lindblom kind of dragging them along, and with, of course, Jamina Roberts' assists. So it's kind of maybe 3 characters in the Swedish team kind of holding it together for them. Whereas France, you really felt like you could have anyone come off the bench and they were kind of a random rocket from Canor every now and again. And yes, you just felt like there was a lot more ammunition there. And Zadie at the centre of it, kind of dishing out the assists, was just wonderful to watch.
Yeah, I think from a Swedish perspective, they had those random rockets in the case of Karin Strömberg and Jenny Karlsson, who both came on and did occasionally do exactly that, but didn't do it often enough, and particularly when they were playing 7v6 and there was that space in the centre of attack to take the shots on, they didn't do it. But I remember that exact period you're talking about with Gras Zadie, Alex, and that was right at the beginning of the last 10 minutes. So Sweden had come back within 2 goals, I think, and then she did all that those 3 movements, got a goal, got an assist, won a penalty, and that really just killed off any final surge from the Swedes. So yeah, she seems to be getting better this season. I mean, I think she had a bit of a lull last season, Gras Zadie, but yeah, she's back, and it's an exciting prospect against Denmark.
What did you make of the 6 versus 7? Because I thought that was kind of a bit of a turning point in the game, because I feel like it was letting the game slip away from them. Then it got them back into the game again, and then all of a sudden they lost 3 goals at the end, and it kind of killed the game off again. I don't know, what was your take on that 7v6?
Yeah, I think the fact they did it in the first place was right. Hilariously enough, it came off the back of not being able to do anything from a 6-on-5, like a one woman up situation. And Axner, I think, decided he was going to go for it. I think it worked for the most part. But then they rushed a couple of shots and then a couple of turnovers. You got empty net goals, and then it's game over. I think if you concede more than 2 empty net goals in 7v6, then you're doing the wrong thing.
And they were also missing a vital element of the 7v6. It worked because they were able to get shots off from the backcourt and get the ball to the wing finally, which they weren't able to do for most of the second half. But what they didn't have is someone breaking through between the number 1 and 2 defenders at speed. Because that's the space that's afforded within the 7 and 6 in a lot of cases, that there's a small gap and you need someone to beeline there. And that should have been Yamina Roberts, but she kept going inside. And on the other side, they also have Karen Stromberg there at times, who doesn't have the speed. And if they really targeted those outside gaps that basically France gave up after they adjusted, they could have kept going, but they just kept going with the same kind of routes down the middle and through the wings that were shut down. One thing you mentioned, Brian, is that there was such a widespread goal tally for the French, and it was amazing to see the young players come in and take on that responsibility. And Chris actually spoke to Allison Pineau and spoke about that integration of the team and how they've transitioned after Olympics. So we will give that a listen.
Alison, first of all, can we go back to last night's game and talk about that defense in the second half? You came out like a completely different beast as a team, and it must have been a great confidence booster to see the Swedes kind of crumble like that.
Well, of course, I'm very glad about our second half. It was really hard for Sweden to find the gate. This is why actually they changed their tactic to try to play in 7 against 6 without the goalkeeper. It was not easy for us to defend, but they decided to choose this tactic. I think it helped us at the end to win this game, because it was not easy also for them to attack our defense in this way. Of course, when the game got a little bit tighter, that they came back a little bit in the game, we stay strong mentally. We believe that we could do it until the end, and we continue to score goals, and then the gap stay quietly the same.
Mental strength is a huge thing with this French team over the years, it seems, and I mean, particularly coming out of the Olympics this summer, the team seems to have managed with the next competition syndrome very well, and so far looking brilliant, going to the semi-finals. What do you think the key thing for that is, transferring what you've done in the summer to this championship?
Well, actually, it's a good question. Many people have been asking me this question, how we are doing it so well after 3 months of this gold medal in Olympic Games. But I just think that we came here without any pressure of result. We just wanted to see what we could do, give our best, and going step by step. So we know what is our strength, our identity in this team, and we, let's say, take this wave in a good way to actually reach the semi-final.
You say they're playing with no pressure coming into this championship. Is that because you're already thinking about, let's say, bringing the next generation through for the Olympics in 24?
No, I don't think so. I mean, of course, many things has changed these Olympic Games, because some players have retired, then newcomers arrived, and then it's always about this balance, this new balance that we have to find in the team. And I think we did it pretty well. We know that our team is really cool, and you can integrate really easily. The old players are also here to guide the young ones, to help them to be here to enjoy and to give their best. They don't have any pressure. I mean, from us, we just want them to be happy in this team. So, of course, I'm very glad and satisfied about the result until now. maybe nobody expect that we will be here again, but we grew through the games, and here we go again.
And what you're saying there about the older players helping to integrate, you're one of the most experienced players in this squad. How do you personally see your role within the team and also helping those younger players?
Well, of course, through the years my role has changed, but I know I have a lot of experience, and the games that are coming are very important for me, and I know that everyone is expecting a lot from my side because they know that I know how to manage those games, so they are waiting for me. But I'm very glad about what I give to this team and what I give also to the young ones. I know I'm like a catalyst in this team between the old ones, between the young ones. I'm like a kind of a bridge, but we have also many leaders in this team, so I really enjoy, and I feel like a kid in this competition a little because I achieved something really big with these Olympic Games. It was my biggest dream, I think, after I was running so many years for this gold. We failed so many times to get it, but finally we got it. So I just want to enjoy my last competition with my national team. Of course, I will quit in 24, so I just want to feel really happy and give my best.
So this has changed your perspective on playing international handball now that you've achieved that huge goal. It's made things a bit lighter for you, perhaps?
Yes, for sure. More lighter, more serenity, of course, because I feel that I've done my duty for this national team, and we have wrote history, so yes, I feel much lighter.
Yeah, super interesting. And coming into the final weekend now, you've had a lot of experience in playing in final weekends. They're a different beast altogether. What, if you're talking to the younger players who maybe haven't experienced it too often, what are the key things that you think mentally and also playing-wise that you need to have in mind coming into the semi-final?
Yeah, for some of them it will be the first time, and the most important for us is that they stay connected to the team, that they play without any pressure, because of course they will not have the biggest role. They have an important role, but the old ones are here to take the pressure. So we just want from them to enjoy, to give their best, and to be focused. This is what we want, to be focused on what they have to do when they are in. And we'll see, but really no pressure for them at all.
And with new players being integrated, of course, the core of the team is very much the same from the Olympics. But how would you compare what the team is like now, whether it's not necessarily on the court, but as a group in comparison to the French teams you've been with over the years?
Yeah, much younger. We needed to find a new balance, of course, after Tokyo. But surprisingly, we have done it pretty well, my opinion. It's very hard to explain that for me, but I think everyone brings something in this spot, and life goes on.
Then finally, with the Denmark game on Friday, it feels like two somewhat similar styles coming together in terms of what you're trying to focus on. What do you think will be the key to breaking them down?
I will not reveal anything, but of course it's not a surprise if I say that of course our defense will be the key, because it's been like that for so many years. I think we are the best defense in the world, and so we are getting ready for this game. We are aware that Denmark have done a lot and pretty well in this World Championship. We know, of course, their goalkeepers are in a very good shape. The duo is doing amazing. So it's going to be a very similar game that against Sweden, but not with the same skills, of course. So we are aware about Denmark, and I know how much they want to beat us. So we will see what will happen on Friday.
I guess it's a case also, you were saying about with the Olympic goal that you were trying to make this huge breakthrough and achieved it for this Danish team as well. It's been a while since they managed to achieve something, so you know what you're going to face in that sense. Yeah,
we know what we're going to face, and of course they lost against us so many times in the past years. We are pretty aware that they beat us in Kumamoto in 2019, but let's say that the advantage is a little bit more in our side, but this is a semi-final, so you have to be ready. You never know, nothing is written in advance. We will see.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alison.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alison, for that. Some nice insight there, and I think she seems very relaxed heading into their semi-final against Denmark. Overall, I think it's probably fair to say that Sweden had a pretty good tournament. I mean, finishing fifth, definite some highlights. I mean, I think we can't really move on without mentioning Natalie Hagman, who probably had I don't know. I mean, she didn't win anything, but it was definitely a very, very memorable tournament for her, scoring 70 goals in 7 games, which is pretty incredible, thinking that Lois Abing scored 71 goals in 9 games in Japan. So, okay, a bit of a different format when you're playing against Puerto Rico and Kazakhstan, but still quite the feat.
Yeah, and I'm happy for her as well. She's a player who, in the last few years, has had her ups and downs, I think particularly at club level, where she wasn't able to quite, become a regular Champions League player, which many people expected. But at this championship, she's put herself in the shop window again. Yeah, so we're all very hyped about France all of a sudden with that defense, but only a day before that, when Denmark beat Brazil, Alex, I believe you were all in on Denmark, believing that they were the real deal. Do you not feel so confident anymore?
I still feel confident in Denmark and what they're doing this year, and I think they themselves are more confident with kind of that additional time with Jesper Jensen. It's just this French team is a different beast. When they turn it on, and I just it's very hard to imagine this game because both teams' defenses are the strong point. But they're also completely different defenses. Denmark is more of a classic Scandinavian 6-0 with 2 very strong centre blocks and the best goalkeepers in the world. So it's just, I would feel more confident in Denmark against the other teams left in this competition, so Norway and Spain, than against France, because with Denmark's kind of struggling attack, and it's still struggled, they performed well against Brazil, but again it was kind of on the second wave that they were able to break through and make a difference. But with that slightly struggling attack, if France turn it on for 15 minutes during the game, the game could be lost straight away, and that's what I fear for this Danish team, that it'll be close, but France have this ability to just turn it on that Denmark probably don't have, but then they have the goalkeepers. That's their trump card.
And what a trump card. I guess based on the way it's going, with them swapping between Reinhardt and Toft for every game, it's Reinhardt's turn. Do you think she'll get the start?
Nah, Sandra Toft made 17 saves in a quarter-final. You can't put her on the bench after that.
And she's the captain, yeah. So.
She's the captain.
But so often at these final weekends of tournaments or championships, it's been the goalkeepers that win the day. France have 2 very good goalkeepers as well in Laura Gloser and Cleopatra Dorlo, but they haven't quite been able to produce anything of the same level. I mean, it says a lot that they only made 3 saves in that first half, yet were level with Sweden. And it was all about the defence in creating stops. And how do you feel about it, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I said in the last podcast that I was a little bit worried about I think the Danish attack doesn't really look like a championship winning attack. And I think after seeing how France played and then Denmark's performance against Brazil, I think it didn't change actually, maybe I'm a little bit more convinced of that. And but I would say this: I think it would only take one player or 1 or 2 players from Denmark to really shine in that game for them to have a really, really close game with France or to even snatch it. I think if someone like Anna Mette Hansen can maybe shake off that nervousness or like some of the wild shots she was throwing, missing the goal at some points. If she can get rid of that and have a stormer of a game, it could be something as simple as that could really change it for Denmark. But if they don't and they're struggling again, I just see France could win it by 5.
There's going to be an interesting battle to watch out as well. And I noticed in the game against Brazil, the only weakness that I could put with Sandra Toft was that she conceded a few win goals. So that was the only place where Brazil were able to get past her at times. And it was Cardoso actually for Brazil on that right wing, who had an incredible game. But
scored 10 in the end, did she?
Yeah, she scored 10 from 13, I think, including 4 goals from the wing, which is a fairly high rate compared to this championship. So that may be one of Sandra Toft's weaknesses, that, the only weakness that I can see. But on the other side, for France, this is where they have their new players. It's not their battle-hardened veterans that are on the wings. It's Toublanc and La Source, as well as Chloé Valentini, who have played on the wings. 2 of those are kind of rookies relative to the rest of the team, but they've performed well. And it's this battle of the greatest goalkeeper in the world that may have one weakness, and these great players in a big occasion, so we don't know how they'll react. And that could be the key in this game.
I think you're convincing me that Denmark are going to win it now. Because interestingly enough, early in that Brazil game, I was like, there's no way these Brazilian players aren't scoring from the wing. In the second half they did, first half they didn't. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Shall we talk about the other semi-final then?
Nah.
Spain against Norway. Might seem like Spain already have done what they needed to do at this championship by getting to the semi-final. Do they have it in them to beat Norway in a world semi-final for the second time in a row at home? Probably not. What do you think?
Probably not, but I mean, I didn't see the only game I didn't see much of was the Spain-Germany game. But what I did see the last 15 minutes, and I saw Germany in absolute panic mode and panic stations, and it just looked like an absolute one of the ugliest games of handball you'd ever see. But as you said, Chris, even across from across YouTube, you could tell that there was an absolute brilliant atmosphere there. So I think if Spain are going to do anything, they'll have to just turn it into another one of those type of matches where they're just going to absolutely roughhouse Norway out of it. And that's the only way I could see, I don't know, somehow take Steen Oftedal out of the game with some roughhousery, some shithousery, some Adrian Sipos. And but otherwise, I'm not really sure. I just see Norway again a good bit above Spain in almost every part of the court, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so as well. Spain they didn't look good in that game. No one looked good in that game against Germany. It was a real scrap.
The referees didn't look good. Nobody. 18 penalties, by the way, in that game.
At least they're consistent. Yeah, they're consistent at least,
They were bloody consistent in the penalty giving.
They knew whistles.
Yeah, so they, as Brian said, they have to turn into a battle, and I do wonder if they are just happy with what they are. And I hear, Chris, you know that they're pretty happy with getting to the semi-final, right?
Correct. That's all I can say on that. No further comments.
They had a bit of a fiesta. I mean, siesta the other day. Yeah,
they had a nice siesta after the game. Look, lads, we've all played matches late in the evenings, right? If you play an 8:30 match, there's no way you can fall asleep at midnight or 1 o'clock. You need to stay up a bit longer and let the adrenaline flow out of your system before you can sleep. And I think that's what the Spaniards did, also knowing they had an extra day to prepare. But this is what Spain do. They play by their own rules, and when they're successful, they are successful. And they managed to do it against Norway a couple of years ago. Home advantage, if they can make it another dogfight like they did against Germany and play the way that they need to play to win, I think they have a chance. But I have a feeling that Norway have learned their lesson from a couple of years ago. and that if they take a lead like Germany did do at the beginning, that they'll be able to keep it up. Also the fact that Norway continue to keep their best player, or the best player arguably in the world, on the bench at the start is a real, power play. I think this Norway team, they also, a bit like France, they're peaking at the right moment in this championship as well. And that performance against the Russian team, who got to give a lot of credit to the Russian team, by the way. They kept coming at them. They showed a lot of guts against Norway, but Norway looked very good and very comfortable in that game.
There was people in the YouTube comments saying, I can't believe Norway are struggling against Russia B. But I mean, I wouldn't go quite that far to call it Russia B now. But I didn't even see they were really struggling. I thought, as you said, Chris, I thought they looked actually quite comfortable for most of the game. I mean, Russia were taking it to them every now and again, but you never really felt like their lead was really threatened at any stage.
Yeah, there was a couple of times they came back within 2 or 3 goals, but I spoke briefly to Kari Bratzett after the game and I spoke to her about that, and she's like, yeah, it's difficult when you're winning by so much. They came back into it a couple of times, then we just had to increase the intensity. So that's the way they looked at it, and that suggests a lot of confidence in that team. Stina Oftedal was in good form, good second wave attacking, and you could see why Thorir Hagaisen wanted to stick with the starting backcourt that he did in that kind of game against that kind of team. Maybe that's the key against Spain as well, or maybe they just need Henny Rijstad scoring 12 goals.
What happened? So how did Spain beat Norway in 2 years ago?
Alex, that's a very good question. I was there, but I can't really remember now.
Yeah.
All I remember is there's no way in hell Spain are winning this game. And then they did. So I feel like it was a game where Spain, a bit like against Germany, they kind of took hold 13-13 at half time. And then Spain ran away with it in the second half. They won 28-22. It was a complete shock to the system in that case, because they just second half completely took over, and Alexandrina Cabral had an amazing game. Maybe it's unfair to compare that to this one, because the key for Spain against Germany was actually their young players who came on, and they really impressive, and it's something we don't really associate with Spain, is having young players, because they, at the last World Championship 2 years ago, and at the Olympics, I think as well, they had the oldest squads overall, but they've already had to kind of start a new generation. And one in particular is Paula Arcos, who's just 19 years of age. And she came onto the court against Germany, absolutely no fear in her whatsoever. Also Carmen Campos, who's a bit older, she's 26, but only had 19 caps before this championship, was quite new to the squad as well. And a couple of players in their early 20s in there. They came on and they made a big difference, playing without any fear. And so then the defence was just devious against the Germans. I have a feeling that Norway won't be caught out like that, though.
There's also one big difference between that Norway squad 2 years ago. Actually, two big differences. A young player called Henny Rijstad was still too young to get into the squad. And an old player called Nora Merck was still too injured to get into that squad. And now they're two of the best players in the world. So I think that Norway team didn't quite have the punching power of the Norway we see today, and the punching power to be comfortable, I think. And as you said, they won't be caught out because they have just better players that can take over, that can score you the crucial goal.
So if none of us give a reason why Spain can win this, then we're going to look very silly potentially on Friday. Has anyone got any reasons why Spain can win this?
Oh, well, no, he said if they turn into a dogfight, they will have a chance, But I think that's probably the main reason for me, and it's going to need, I think, a pretty bad slip up from someone like Henny Rijstad or maybe Stina Oftedal, who was absolutely incredible with her assists in the last game. If she's not on form, it'll be. It sounds a little bit strange, but it's almost out of Spain's hands to a certain degree.
They also, Norway, haven't been turning over the ball as much so far, which was one weakness that we picked out before. Now we're just looking for something. Now it's not Norway are going to lose it somehow. It's another team will have to raise their game and really overpower them, which I don't see Spain doing. I do see Denmark doing that, though.
All right. So, shall we do all the potential final predictions then?
Yeah, let's do it. Because I'm in good form, so I had 100% from the last round, so
Yeah.
on almost correct on the scores as well. No, not really, but okay.
I can't believe I've become the contrarian when it comes to the predictions. That was your job, Brian.
Yeah, we'll go back to that during the Euro. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
When I get paid for it. Fourth place, no medal here. As you know, fourth place doesn't come. Actually, they do get a medal sometimes, don't they? Just get some sort of weird silver-looking medal sometimes. Spain. Third place, Denmark. Second place, France. First place, Norway. MVP, Henny Rystad. It's going to be a very close final, though.
Alex?
I'll give you some permutations here, because if Denmark win their semi-final against France, they will beat Norway in the final. If France win that semi-final, I actually see Norway winning that ahead of them. And yes, Spain have no chance. But maybe in the third place playoff, they'll rally that home support. It will mean much more for them, so they can. If Spain meet France in the third place playoff, Spain will win. But if they meet Denmark, it will be Denmark that wins, because for them it's just as important. Because a bronze medal for Denmark would be a big occasion. France,
Now, Chris, before you make your decision, right? I just want to remind you of the history. We've been doing this podcast for quite a while now. This will be the 132nd episode of this podcast. Well, you'll cast your mind back to various times at situations when we're making predictions. Yeah. And we've poo-pooed various teams who have absolutely no chance at various Final Fours or other European Championship or World Championships. I'm not saying you have to pick Spain now, but for the
the integrity of the
for
podcast.
The integrity of the podcast, I think you should put Spain at least in the final.
I mean, that also, bear in mind, did I not predict Vipers to win the Final Four this year and Montpellier to win it back in the day? So I am indeed a champion of the outsiders. But the reason I was laughing as Alex was speaking is because I actually think the exact same way about those permutations. I believe that if Denmark go through to the final, they'll beat Norway. If France go through, they'll lose to Norway, and Spain will get bronze if they face France, but they'll lose if they face Denmark. Basically, no matter what happens, we're saying that Denmark will win on the Sunday and France will lose on the Sunday. Who wins on the Friday? Nobody knows. We'll find out.
Pretty much everything covered there now.
That's literally what Alex was saying, and I fully agree. Yeah. It'll be hilarious if it's a Denmark-Spain final. Let's make history. I don't know if Alex gave his MVP in this case. It's going to be on a late surge to outdo her teammate Sandra Toft, MVP. Denmark win gold.
Wow.
If they beat France on the Friday. That's how handball works. You have to take it game by game.
Have to win the semi to get to the final.
It is. That's going to be a great semi-final. It's almost like a final, except if one of the teams win it, they'll lose to Norway in the actual final.
Yep, that's how tournaments generally work, Chris.
You play a bunch of games, then you lose to Norway in the final. That's except when it's at the Olympics, of course. We can't speak down about the Olympic champions. I feel like I'm no closer to knowing what's going to happen than at the start of this podcast. So I hope some people who listened have found some clarity. At least Brian knows what he wants.
Yeah, I know what I want, but sure, but no evidence and not much to back it up. But I know what I want. But Alex, did you pick a MVP?
I don't even know who's going to be playing in the final, so I can't really pick an MVP.
Well, Norway's going to be in the final.
If the final is Norway Denmark, who gets MVP?
I'll say Reinhard. There you go.
If the final is France Norway, who gets MVP? This is great radio. The permutation hour.
Stina Offerdal, MVP in that final.
And if Spain somehow win the Euro, who gets the MVP?
That'll be hilarious because it's the World Championship.
Oh no, sorry. In my head, this is the best part of the World Championship when it turns into the European Championship.
Jesus, you can't say that, Brian.
It's always my favourite part of the World Championship. What? We'd like to thank our sponsors today, the European Handball Federation, for sponsoring this episode.
And do we have a winner in the President's Cup?
Yes, Angola beat Slovakia in the final.
Jesus,
there you go. There's the rest of the world representing President's Cup champions.
Yeah, took over the title from France, who won it 2 years ago.
I still can't believe France won the President's Cup.
Yeah, while waiting to interview Allison Pineau, Andrew McSteen, who works for the IHF, he showed me the winning picture from 2 years ago. Have a look at that, Google it, and you'll just see a bunch of French players who are like, get me the fuck out of this arena. I have no interest in celebrating this competition. Do you know who we are?
Oh my gosh.
So they came back with a vengeance. And
well, congratulations to Angola, who have won their first piece of silverware at this championship, the 25th place President's Cup champions of 2021. And now we all look forward to seeing who takes the first place overall in Spain.
So it's good night from all of us here at the Uninformed Handball Hour. We will see you after the final for maybe a short recap of Sunday's magical happenings.